Hollywood, September 1960. The Brown Derby restaurant buzzes with the usual evening crowd of stars, agents, and studio executives. At a corner table sits America's most beloved movie star, John Wayne, dining with his longtime friend and director John Ford. Across the room, at a smaller table tucked away from the main dining area, sits America's most decorated war hero, Audie Murphy. Wayne has been watching Murphy all evening. The younger man sits alone, picking at his food, his eyes carrying the weight of something Wayne recognizes but has never experienced firsthand. Wayne knows Murphy's story: Medal of Honor, 33 decorations, 240 confirmed enemy kills. He also knows the nightmares, the financial struggles, the way Hollywood chews up real heroes and spits out the bones. Ford notices Wayne's distraction. "You thinking about going over there, Duke?" Wayne nods slowly. "Kid looks like he could use some company." What Wayne doesn't know is that Murphy has been watching him too. Watching the man who made a fortune playing soldiers while real soldiers died. Watching the actor who became America's symbol of military courage without ever hearing a shot fired in anger. Wayne stands up, straightens his jacket, and walks across the restaurant. Every step carries the confidence of a man who's never met a problem he couldn't solve with the right words and good intentions. "Mind if I sit down, son?" Murphy looks up, his pale blue eyes meeting Wayne's. For a moment, neither man speaks. Then Murphy gestures to the empty chair. "It's a free country. That's what we fought for, right?" Wayne sits, missing the edge in Murphy's voice. "I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time, Audie. What you did over there, what you boys all did, it means something, more than you know." Murphy's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. Does it? Before we continue with what happened next in this conversation that would shatter a friendship before it could begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to connect with someone only to realize you were speaking different languages? Hit that subscribe button to see how good intentions can lead to devastating consequences. Wayne leans forward, his voice taking on the paternal tone that made him America's father figure. "I know it's been tough for you since you got back. The nightmares, the money troubles. Hell, I hear the studio heads talking. They don't understand what you boys went through." "You boys." Murphy repeats the phrase quietly, as if tasting something bitter. Wayne doesn't notice the warning signs. He's trying to help, trying to connect, trying to be the mentor he thinks Murphy needs. "Look, I know I didn't serve, had 4 kids, studio contracts, medical deferments, but I've spent 20 years making pictures about soldiers, about what it means to serve. I understand." "You understand?" Murphy's voice is still quiet, but something dangerous creeps into it. Wayne presses on, oblivious to the shift. "I've talked to hundreds of veterans, made dozens of war pictures. Hell, I probably know more about military strategy than most generals. The research I did for Sands of Iwo Jima alone." Murphy's fork stops halfway to his mouth. He sets it down carefully, precisely, the way a man handles an armed grenade. "You know about military strategy." "Damn right I do. Had to learn it for the pictures." Can't fool the audience if you don't know what you're talking about. The restaurant continues its evening symphony around them. Conversations, laughter, the clink of glasses. But at their table, the temperature has dropped 20 degrees. Murphy's voice remains level, conversational. "Tell me, Mr. Wayne, what does gunpowder smell like when it burns in a man's face?" Wayne blinks, thrown by the specificity of the question. "Well, the special effects boys use cordite for the muzzle flashes." "That's not what I asked." Murphy's eyes never leave Wayne's face. "What does it smell like when you're standing on a burning tank destroyer, firing a .50 caliber machine gun at 200 German soldiers, and the cordite from your own weapon mixes with the smoke from your friends' bodies?" The confidence in Wayne's voice wavers. "Audie, I don't think—" "Sweet." Murphy's voice cuts through Wayne's words like a blade. "It smells sweet, like burned sugar mixed with copper pennies and human shit. Because when men die violently, their bowels let go." Wayne's face goes pale. Murphy leans back in his chair, his movements controlled, predatory. You want to know what else you learn in real combat, Mr. Wayne? You learn that courage isn't something you turn on and off between takes. You learn that when your best friend's face gets blown off by a German grenade, you don't get to yell, cut, and try the scene again. The words hang in the air like smoke from artillery fire. Wayne tries to recover, falling back on his natural charisma. Son, I know you've been through hell. Hell? Murphy's laugh is sharp, bitter. Hell is a place people talk about in church, Mr. Wayne. What I went through has a different name. It's called war. Real war. Not the sanitized, heroic version you sell in theaters. Wayne's famous temper begins to show. His voice takes on an edge. Now hold on there, kid. I may not have served, but I've done more for the military than most soldiers ever will. My pictures show Americans what courage looks like. They inspire young men to serve their country. Murphy's eyes narrow. Your pictures show Americans what you think courage looks like. What courage looks like to someone who's never felt a German bullet whistle past his ear. Who's never had to choose between saving a wounded friend and completing a mission. The two men stare at each other across the small table. Wayne, 6'4" of manufactured toughness and Hollywood confidence. Murphy, 5'7" of real violence and authentic pain. I've made more than 60 war pictures, Wayne says, his voice rising slightly. I've worked with real veterans as consultants. I've studied every major battle of the 20th century. I may not have a chest full of medals, but I understand war better than most men who fought in it. The words are barely out of Wayne's mouth before he realizes his mistake. The air around their table seems to freeze. Murphy's voice, when it comes, is barely above a whisper. You understand war better than most men who fought in it. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. Murphy's control finally cracks, just slightly. You think because you've read books and talked to consultants and made movies, you understand what it's like to kill a man with your bare hands. What it's like to hold your squad leader while he dies calling for his mother. What it's like to come home and try to explain to civilians why you wake up screaming. Wayne's face flushes red. The Duke doesn't like being challenged, especially not in public, especially not by someone young enough to be his son. Listen here, you little. Wayne catches himself, but the damage is already done. The mask has slipped. For just a moment, Murphy has seen what lies beneath the paternal facade. Arrogance, resentment, and something that looks very much like jealousy. Murphy stands up slowly, his movements precise and controlled. No, Mr. Wayne, you listen. The restaurant has gone quiet around them. Other diners pretend not to notice, but every conversation has stopped. This is Hollywood history happening in real time. Murphy's voice carries across the suddenly silent dining room. You want to know the difference between you and me? I spent 3 years in combat zones. You spent 30 years playing pretend. I killed 240 enemy soldiers. You killed extras with blanks. Wayne starts to rise from his chair, his face darkening with anger. Murphy continues, his voice gaining strength. I earned every scar on my body. You earned every dollar in your bank account. I carry the dead with me everywhere I go. You carry a screenplay. You ungrateful little bastard, Wayne snarls, finally losing his temper. I've done more for this country's image than any soldier ever did. My pictures have inspired millions of Americans. They've shown the world what American values look like. Murphy's laugh is cold as January steel. Your pictures have shown the world what American propaganda looks like. You've turned war into entertainment and suffering into box office receipts. Wayne stands now, towering over the smaller man. You think you're better than me because you were in the war. Well, let me tell you something, kid. Some of us served our country in different ways. Some of us stayed home and kept morale up. Some of us made sure Americans remembered what they were fighting for. The words hit Murphy like physical blows. His voice drops to that dangerous whisper again. Some of you stayed home while better men died. Wayne's face contorts with rage. I had deferments. I had responsibilities. I couldn't just run off to play soldier like some glory-seeking farm boy from Texas. The restaurant goes dead silent. Even the kitchen noise stops. Murphy's eyes go completely cold. Play soldier. Wayne realizes what he's said, but his pride won't let him back down. That's right. Some of us had real responsibilities. Some of us had families to support, careers to maintain, important work to do. Murphy takes one step closer to Wayne. Despite the size difference, Wayne instinctively steps back. Important work, Murphy repeats, like making movies about brave men while brave men were dying. Wayne's voice turns vicious, desperate. At least I didn't spend my war years getting my friends killed and then come home crying about nightmares. The words hit the restaurant like a thunderclap. Murphy goes completely still. His face shows nothing. No anger, no hurt, no surprise. Just absolute emptiness. The look of a man who has just watched something die. When he speaks, his voice is so quiet that the people at nearby tables have to strain to hear him. You're right, Mr. Wayne. I did get my friends killed. Johnny Reese, who used to do bird calls. Tommy Bradley, who wanted to be a teacher. Marcus Washington, who saved 3 men before the mortar got him. Murphy's voice never changes tone, never rises above that terrifying whisper. And you're right about something else. I do cry about nightmares. Every man I know who actually fought in that war cries about nightmares. Because we remember what you never had to see. He reaches into his wallet and pulls out a worn photograph. 7 young men in army uniforms, arms around each other's shoulders. These were my friends before Anzio. I'm the only one still breathing. But you're right, I got them killed. Because I was their sergeant, and sergeants are responsible for their men. Even when those men die doing their duty. Even when they die so actors can make movies about how brave they were. Murphy places the photograph on the table between them. You know what the difference is between us, Mr. Wayne? When my friends died, I held them while they bled out. When your movie friends die, you take them to dinner afterward. Wayne stares at the photograph, his anger evaporating into something that looks like shame. Murphy picks up the photograph and puts it back in his wallet. You want to know about important work? Those boys did important work. They died so you could keep making movies about how noble death is. They died so you could stand in front of cameras and talk about sacrifice without ever making any. Murphy turns to leave, then stops. One more thing, Mr. Wayne. You called me a glory-seeking farm boy from Texas. You're half right. I am a farm boy from Texas. But I never sought glory. Glory sought me. And when it found me, it brought 33 medals, and 240 dead Germans, and nightmares that will last until I die. He looks directly at Wayne, his pale blue eyes holding nothing but ice. What did glory bring you? Academy Award nominations and a bank account full of money you made, pretending to be what I actually was. Murphy walks away, leaving Wayne standing alone beside their table, surrounded by 50 witnesses to Hollywood's most devastating put-down. John Ford approaches Wayne, his weathered face grim. Jesus Christ, Duke, what the hell did you say to that boy? Wayne slumps back into his chair, staring at the spot where Murphy's photograph had been. I called him a glory-seeking farm boy, said he spent the war getting his friends killed. Ford's face goes white. You stupid son of a bitch, do you have any idea what that boy went through, what he's still going through? Wayne's voice is barely audible. I was trying to help him. Help him? Ford's voice is incredulous. You just told the most decorated soldier in American history that he got his friends killed for glory. You told a man who earned 33 medals that he was playing soldier. Wayne looks up at Ford, and for the first time in years, the Duke looks old. I didn't mean it like that. He made me feel small. Made me feel like everything I've done doesn't matter. Ford sits down across from Wayne. Everything you've done does matter, Duke. But not the way you think it does. Your job was to entertain people. to give them heroes they could believe in. His job was to actually be one. The restaurant slowly returns to its normal noise level, but the conversation at nearby tables has changed. Everyone is talking about what they just witnessed. The night America's biggest movie star insulted America's greatest war hero. Wayne never approaches Murphy again, never calls, never sends a letter. The shame runs too deep. Murphy never speaks publicly about the encounter, never gives interviews about it, never uses it for publicity. But word spreads through Hollywood anyway. Within a week, everyone in the industry knows what happened at the Brown Derby. The story becomes legend, passed down through generations of actors, directors, and writers. The night John Wayne, the man who defined American masculinity on screen, was shown what real masculinity actually looks like. In 1979, when Wayne dies of cancer, Murphy is asked by reporters if he has any comment. His response is brief. "John Wayne was a fine actor who made people believe in heroes. That's not a small thing." Even in death, Murphy shows more grace than Wayne showed in life. But the damage was done that night in 1960. Two men who should have been allies, who should have understood each other, instead became symbols of the divide between those who fight wars and those who profit from them. Wayne spent the rest of his career trying to prove his patriotism, making increasingly jingoistic films, surrounding himself with real veterans who could validate his fictional courage. Murphy spent the rest of his life carrying not just the dead from his war, but the weight of knowing that his real heroism made other men feel small, that his authentic courage somehow diminished those who only played at it. The tragedy isn't that two great Americans couldn't find common ground. The tragedy is that Wayne's insecurity about his own choices made him attack a man who never asked for glory, never sought fame, never wanted anything more than the chance to live quietly with his nightmares. In the end, both men served their country, one with bullets, one with films, one with blood, one with box office receipts. But only one understood that true heroism doesn't need to prove itself. It just needs to endure. Hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments. Do you think Wayne's anger came from guilt or jealousy? And unfortunately, they don't make men like Audie Murphy anymore.